Hi there. Welcome to Conversations for Yoga Teachers. I'm your host, Karen Fabian, and this is episode 339. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that my hair is down, which is a very rare thing. My hair is so curly and wild that if you're watching this, you're probably like, wow, her hair looks crazy. But I just got my hair cut and I decided, what the heck, for this video portion of the podcast, I'll leave it down. It actually feels really good. When you have your hair up all the time, I don't know if you can relate, it actually pulls on your skull a little bit. Anyway, I'm recording this on March 6th, 2025, and this will go live on March 10th. And you can be watching on YouTube, and you can also be listening to the audio version only on whatever channel you're listening on. And the bottom line is, I'm so glad you're here. What you're going to learn in today's episode, this is really an episode for a very specific person. But I will say what I'm going to talk about can transcend the specific person this episode's for. This episode is really for yoga teachers who are 45 years old and up, and who have a concern about their age being a limiting factor for their success as a yoga teacher. And again, if you're not 45, if you're younger than 45, we'll still be talking about some things that transcend age because they fall into this category of limiting beliefs. But if you are 45 and up and you believe that your age is holding you back from being the kind of yoga teacher you dream of being, from feeling truly confident and empowered when you teach, this is really the person I'm talking to. Now, I am inspired to have this conversation because I've had a number of conversations with teachers recently about this topic. And the conversations I have always inform the topics I bring to you here on the pod, because that says to me that they're important to you. And when I have a conversation like this more than once in a particular short period of time, I know that it's something that I should be talking about on the podcast. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this today. And the interesting thing, when I look out over the past 2 years in particular, with regard to who has enrolled in my program, my one-on-one program, every single person has been a woman over the age of 45. And so that also tells me that there are a lot of women 45 and up who are teaching yoga. And when I have conversations with those teachers, when I have had conversations with those teachers over the past 2 years, because I'm working with them in my program, the issue of age, not all the time, but definitely does come up. So again, this is just giving me, the fuel to bring it up, because my whole point here is to help you loosen your attachment to any belief that you have that can be holding or that is holding you back from teaching in a way that feels easy and fun. I mean, no one really talks about easy and fun as two adjectives to describe how teaching yoga can be. Like, people don't really talk about it like that, but that's, in my mind, that's like the highest credit to you. When you're teaching your classes and you feel like they're easy and fun, then that is a demonstration of the fact that you have moved past limiting beliefs. You're doing things in a way that's so easy for you that you don't need to do any prep. You don't need to think about it. You're not worrying about what people are thinking about you when you're teaching. You're in it for the fun of it. And honestly, if you're not having fun, then what are you doing teaching yoga? Why are you doing it? Like, that has to be part of the equation. Yes, there's being inspired. Yes, there's you love yoga and you want to share it with people. Yes, there's something about yoga speaks to you and you want to give people an opportunity to experience it in their own way. But on some level, it has to be fun, right? You know, like, we want to go into our classes and feel like we can be ourselves. And we definitely don't want to feel like we're walking in the room wishing we were 25, or going into a studio and comparing ourselves silently to the teachers that we see who we know are younger than us. Like, how is that fun? That's like, going into a situation on a consistent basis that's just making you feel badly about yourself. Why would you continue to do that? So of course you want it to be easy and fun. And of course you're a smart person. You don't want to go into a situation over and over again that makes you feel badly about yourself. But this might be what you're doing. And it's only because we haven't had this conversation. So let's have this conversation. Number one, and this is going to sound obvious. However, when we're talking about mindset related topics, it doesn't matter that the obvious is obvious, because when you're operating according to a belief, the obvious is not what you're looking at. You're looking at the non-obvious, which is the belief. So here's the obvious thing. You cannot do anything about your age. You can't change how old you are. And you can't stop the fact that with every passing day, you're getting older. You can't change that you're 45 or 55 or 65 or 75 or whatever number you are. You cannot change that. So if you can't change how old you are, why are you fighting it? Right? If you can't change how old you are, why are you fighting it? Why are you spending one iota of time worrying about it? Because you can't change it. Now, of course, I'm being overly simplistic, and I know that you can't change your age. But I know that even despite you knowing that, you're still maybe concerned about it. When you go into the studio and you see people younger than you, when you go and see people taking classes, or when you're taking a yoga class of a younger teacher and you notice they have a lot of people in there, you might think, why don't I have this many people in my class? When you go and take a person's class and you see the teacher demoing and they're super flexible and you think, God, I don't have that kind of flexibility anymore. Therefore, people aren't going to respect me. They must respect this person because she can show this pose that requires a good amount of flexibility. There are so many stories that you may be creating that are related to your age and how you think it's holding you back. So that's why the first thing that I want to bring up is the fact that you can't change it. So if you can't change it, what can you change? You can change how you look at your age. You can always change how you look at your age, even though you can't change your age. And I promise you, when you change how you look at your age will change. Not your literal chronological age, but your perception of your age will change. And instead of it being something that holds you back, it will be something that moves you forward. It will be something that distinguishes you. It will be something that allows you to stand out. It will be something that allows you to build connection in a way you never could when you were in your 20s and 30s. See, this is a reframe around age. It's not sugarcoating it. It's not a Pollyanna perspective. It is literally the truth. If you're willing to, for yourself, take some introspective time and define, what is it about me that I can lean into that allows me to show up in my unique way as a teacher? It's not that you have to say, what is it about me and how old I am that allows me to do that? How old you are is just part of the demographic profile of you. Now, yes, there absolutely are certain things that you have and ways that you look at the world and things you'll be able to do that a younger person won't because of your age that are positive things. One of the most positive things that I've found, and I'm 60, about being older is that it gives you perspective. You have no perspective when you're super young because you just haven't lived enough life to have a long enough runway behind you to have perspective. And when you have perspective, what does that allow you to do? It allows you to see things more clearly. It allows you to be less reactive because you know from your life experience that when things get really crazy, oftentimes they eventually settle. But a younger person doesn't know that because they just don't have a long enough track record of living. And that's really an important point. The longer track record you have of living, the more experience you have to share. And even though you might be thinking, well, I have a lot of life experience, but I don't have a lot of yoga teaching experience, you're just looking at it through this narrow lens. Your life experience is yoga teaching experience because part of teaching yoga is being who you are. If you only look at yoga teaching as teaching poses and sharing cues in the context of a sequence, you're negating the impact of you doing those things in an authentic and confident way. When you pull through your lived experience through the art of teaching yoga, now you're starting to stand out. Now you're leveraging your age, not specifically, but it's just part of your demographic makeup to allow you to step into your most confident, authentic way of teaching. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going into the class and sharing all these personal stories and speaking about your age and sharing things that you have lived through that you believe have allowed you to share a particular message with your students. Not necessarily about that. Know that though, just intrinsically, because of your age, because of your lived experience, that will naturally come through when you teach, the more confident and empowered you are. You see, if I go in and teach my class and I have a fear that my age is holding me back, that fear will shine through. People will pick up on that. But if I go into my class, as I do, and I don't think about my age as something that's holding me back, I can teach my class in a confident and empowered way, and that will shine through. It will shine through my voice, the tone of my voice, the pace of my voice. It will shine through the way I interact with students, that I seek to engage them in conversation. I don't hide from them. I don't run from conversation. It will show in the way I walk around the room and not being on my mat, just asking them non-verbally to just follow what I'm doing. It will show that I have the confidence to walk around the room and be kind of in their physical space with them, allow them to hear me and see me clearer and better. So there's lots of ways your age can be an asset when you begin to just open the door a little bit into reframing the conversation that you're having with yourself right now about your age. Now, let's talk about another aspect of age. There are quite a few teachers I speak with who, because of where they are in their life right now, they have more time. Their kids are off to college. They are thinking about retiring. They're thinking that teaching yoga is a great thing, a wonderful thing that they'd like to do now that they're done with their corporate career. So this is just a practical explanation or a practical detail or aspect of this conversation that allows you to be excited about the prospect of teaching yoga when you are 55, 65, 75 years old. And think about from a role model perspective, when a person in their 20s and 30s walks in the room and a teacher is teaching the class who clearly is of an older age, think about how inspired that student will be, that you are living, breathing proof of the benefit of long-term practice of yoga, both on a physical and mental level. That you are a demonstration of an illustration of confidence and empowerment, that you are being there. And just by your being there, you are a role model, a shining example of what does it look like when someone continues to do what inspires them in their life, regardless of their age. You're not shrinking away. You're not hiding. You're not holding up in your house. You're continuing to do what you love so that you can be of service, of benefit to other people, and also do something that you love. It's not just about the outgoing service aspect, it's also about you doing what you love. So every time you go into the class, you're that example. You're that living proof. The teachers who are in their 20s and 30s are not. They're not even touching any aspect of that. That's not taking away how they inspire their students, but they can't inspire their students the way you can. They can't. So this is a whole just forthright conversation with you about age as an asset for yoga teachers. So the question I have for you is, how can you teach in a way that helps you stand out so your age is less on the forefront of your mind? What would that look like for you? What would you be doing? How would you be teaching? How would you be walking around the room? What kind of cues would you be using? What kinds of sequences would you teach? What would feel, like I said in the beginning, what would feel so easy and so fun that you could do it just with no prep time, no worrying about creating a new sequence, just an easy and fun way to do it? In fact, that approach just so syncs up with being older, because when you're older, you can start to, again, use your perspective, your retrospective view, to appreciate that, the goodness is in life is not often found in the fancy stuff. It's often found in the simple things. And that's a perfect theme for teaching yoga. The appreciation of yoga by your students is not going to be found in the complicated poses per se. It's often found in just consistent practice with clear cues, with time for silence, with a sequence that the teacher knows well, so that the teacher can be there watching their students. Right? So what would that look like to you? And I would love to know. So send me a DM on Instagram or comment here if you're watching it on YouTube, and let me know, what would that kind of thing look like? Because, and this is where this is a conversation for all teachers, but obviously I'm talking to you as you're listening to this or watching this. The closer you are to doing what you love when you go into the room to teach your class, the sooner you will experience the ease and the joy and the fun that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation. The longer you wait to teach like that, the longer you delay you reaching that point, the more difficult you're making things. And we can look at it just through the lens of this belief around age. The longer you hold on to this belief that your age is a detriment, the more you're just delaying teaching in a way that you want to, where it's easy and fun and you're not worrying about your age. So the choice is yours. Now, having said that, I know what it's like to have a belief. I used to have a whole bunch of beliefs. We don't have time to go into them now, but believe me, I have busted through a lot of beliefs to get to where I am today as a yoga teacher, as a person. So I know that if you've got this belief in your mind that you're quote unquote too old to teach yoga, or your age is holding you back, I get it. You're not going to listen to this episode and in one 20-minute conversation be completely transformed. So what can you experiment with so that you can begin to loosen your attachment to this belief? What's something you can do that allows you to loosen your attachment to this belief? Is there something you can experiment with in your classes? Is there some journal practice you could take on, or some compassionately focused meditation or yoga practice you can do, where you're saying to yourself positive thoughts about yourself? I'm going to tell you at the end of this episode about a 5-day confidence challenge you can take part in that will definitely help you in this regard. So what are the things that you can experiment with, all in service to loosening your attachment to this belief that you're too old? Now, there's one other topic I want to speak to. This is not age related. It sort of falls into this conversation about limiting beliefs. So I wanted to bring this one in to today's conversation, especially because I've heard this a couple times this week. Do you ever go to a yoga class and you're triggered by the person teaching the class, making you think that you're not good enough to teach? This is what's called this comparisonitis. right? The syndrome where you go in and you take somebody's class, you compare yourself to them, and you leave the class not feeling good that you took yoga, but feeling bad that you're not teaching like this person is, or thinking this person's better than you, or thinking this person teaches this complicated peak pose and you're not doing that, or this person has more people in their class, on and on and on and on, whatever it is. So there's two different camps. There's going to a class, seeing the teachers teaching in a particular way and being inspired by it, or maybe just making a mental note. Oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll try that in my class next week. But then there's the other camp that's more the negative view that I just shared with you. And so the first thing I would say is if you can relate to this, why are you going to that person's class? I once had a yoga teacher in my program, and she described this scenario to me. And so I flat out asked her, well, why are you going to that person's class? And she said, I don't know. Maybe I feel like there's something wrong with me that I can't go to her class and not be triggered. And I said, well, why would you think there's something wrong with you? Why wouldn't you just look at it from the factual standpoint that it's triggering to you and that's what's happening? So maybe what would be helpful is to experiment with a different approach instead of beating yourself up more. And she said, I never thought of it that way. So I said, well, why don't you experiment with going to somebody else's class for a couple of weeks and see what happens? And when we got on our next coaching call, do you know what she said? She said, oh my God, Karen, I feel so much better. And I actually found another class at a different studio at the same time that I absolutely love. And I'm never triggered. She said, for whatever reason, this particular teacher doesn't trigger me. And she said, in fact, this particular teacher is teaching in a way that's so simple and essential. It's actually proof to me that you don't have to teach a complex sequence and use all these complex cues. You can actually teach a really simple and fundamental sequence, and it can be amazing. So she not only had one revelation, she had two. She had two light bulb moments, two huge epiphanies, simply because she was willing to experiment with doing something different. See, your confidence as a yoga teacher is not going to be found in the hours of training that you have and going to all these 200, 300, 500 hours of training. Your confidence is going to be found in your willingness to experiment with different things so that you can find what works for you. All of this negative self-talk that it's something wrong with you, that just comes from the ego-based side of things. And when it's yoga specific, it comes from the yoga industry, because there's so many people out there that are holding themselves out as experts, and all they are just yoga teachers sharing their point of view, just like me. I know I'm an expert in anatomy, but I never am going to say the way I teach is the way you should teach. You should teach the way you want to teach. And that's why that's my methodology, is to help you find out what that is. And that's what makes me different from other teachers who teach teachers. So again, when I go take a yoga class, I never feel like, oh, triggered, or, oh, I wish I could do what this person's doing. I might be inspired. I might feel great about the class I just took. I might say to myself, oh, that's a curious way to sequence that. But it has no relationship to me, because I love how I teach. And I want that for you. I want you to unequivocally love the way you teach and never question, am I doing this right? That's what I want for you. So, having said that, we're going to wrap this one up. I mentioned before the 5-day confidence challenge. This is an amazing opportunity for you to experiment over a 5-day chunk of time with different things that you can do to build up your confidence. This is a confidence challenge I've been running since the beginning of the year. I've given out hundreds of these downloads to teachers all over the world, and people are just loving it. So I would love to share you the 5-day confidence challenge. You can print it out, hang it on your wall, and just go through it over 5 days. And then send me a DM on Instagram and let me know how it's going, because I'd love to know at the end of the 5 days what revelations came up for you. It's filled with different exercises, different yoga-based practices, different neuroscience-based practices, different mindset challenges. So it's a wonderful mix over a 5-day period of lots of different things that you can experiment with. Because again, your confidence as a yoga teacher is not going to be found in the hours of training that you do. It's going to be found in your willingness to experiment with different things in service to you, busting the beliefs that you have about yourself, and finding the most easy and fun way out there to teach for you. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the link to the 5-day confidence challenge will be in the caption below. Please also leave a comment, because I'd love to hear any thoughts that came up for you as you were watching this episode. If you're listening to this on audio, take a picture of you listening to the episode on your phone and pop it in my story with any comment about what you thought as you were listening to the episode. If you don't want to take a picture of the imprint of the podcast on your phone, just send me a DM and just let me know anything that came up for you as you were listening today. So that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for watching/listening, and I will talk to you again next week on Conversations for Yoga Teachers. Namaste.